It can be really tricky to get a living room arranged in a way that meets both your TV watching needs and your entertaining and social needs. So you want it to be comfortable enough where you can lay down and watch TV, but you also want it to be a place where it's easy to make conversation. So really, every living room has to wear two hats. In the next few minutes, we're going to talk about how to arrange your living room in a way that meets both needs. And I'm going to share a few real examples from living rooms that are a little tricky to figure out. First things first, you really need to plot out your living room on a piece of paper. And this only takes 10 minutes to do. You just need to measure the length and width of your room. You can use an electronic tool like the one linked below or a tape measure. You want to mark out where the doors are and the windows so that you can know the travel paths. And this is really going to help you figure out how to make your furniture feel really balanced in the space. An easy way to do this on paper is with graph paper, because a lot of graph paper has 1/4 inch boxes. So each foot of your living room is a 1/4 inch. Or you can use a free app like Floor Planner, but there is a little bit of a learning curve. So if you decide you want to do it on paper, be sure to follow the link below, because I have a furniture template. And all you have to do is cut out the right size sofa for your space and the right size rug and the right size chairs, and you just slide it around on your piece of paper. And it makes floor planning really easy to see on paper. The first thing you really need to do when you're placing your furniture is pick the biggest piece, which is usually the couch, and figure out the best place for that. And one of the things you need to think about when you're placing your couch is, do I want to sit on the couch and watch TV? Is there a good viewing distance from the couch to the TV? And the ideal distance is 10 to 12 feet. So you need to figure out where you're going to put your TV and where you're going to put your couch, if that's a purpose that your living room serves. If you have another room that you do all your TV watching in, then you don't need to consider that at all. And you can really center your space around conversation. But if you do watch TV, keep in mind that 10 to 12 feet distance, because if you put your couch too far away because of the layout of the room, then you really can't see the TV well. Or if you put the TV too high on the wall above the fireplace, sometimes it can make watching TV really uncomfortable. One way to make your space feel like it's really set up for conversation is to pull the furniture away from the walls. It's almost like being in the principal's office if you line all of your furniture up against the walls. So you really want to pull things into the room, even if it's just a few inches away from the wall. It'll make the space feel a lot more cozy. The next tip is that you should add pieces of furniture that can move around in the space. If you have a really small space, this is a good way to use swivel chairs or small armchairs. If you have pieces that you can move around, it's a little bit easier to make the space feel more conversational, even if you don't use it that way on a daily basis. And if you have a tight space and you really need a travel path most of the time, if you have movable pieces, you can put those inside the travel path while you're entertaining. Another tip is to use rugs to define the areas in your living room. And this is really helpful in a bigger space, or in a space that's going to have either 2 seating areas or a seating area and a dining area. And if you're looking for tips on how to find the right size rug, I've done a separate video about that, but you want to make sure that all your furniture has at least the front legs on the rug. The next tip is to make sure that your room has enough lighting. Most of the time, overhead lights are not enough to light the whole room. So what can really make your space feel more cozy is to use lamps, to use sconces, to use lights above your art, lights above your cabinets. Just add at least 2 or 3 additional sources of light to the ceiling light, and that makes the space feel a lot more cozy. Put something in the middle of your seating area. If it's a padded ottoman or a coffee table, this really serves as a focal point. Unless you have a really minimal kind of aesthetic, it really helps with conversation if you put something in the middle of the seating area. And you ideally want that to be about 2/3 as wide as your couch. If you're working on your living room arrangement and you're in the market for a sofa, be sure you check out my video on how to find the right size sofa for your space. So now let's look at 2 examples so you can see how important it is to do floor planning. The first one is sort of a small living dining area, and it's really long and narrow. So it's tricky to get a television into the space without putting it on top of the fireplace. you can see that if we move this sofa around, it really, you have to be able to get around the sofa to get up the stairs. So there are limited options for how big the sofa can be. But we wouldn't know that if we didn't plot it all out on a piece of paper. And in this second living room, you can really see that the way it was set up originally, the sofa was way too far away from the TV to be able to see it. And in fact, they didn't use the sofa to watch TV, they sat in the chairs. But their complaint was that the space didn't feel very good for conversation. And that's because they needed to draw the furniture in away from the walls.